Hello, and welcome back to Sharing a Chapter a Day. This is Do, Ra, me, and today I will be reading Chapter 41 of Engagement in Peril by Dara, Odoe, Sok. Chapter 41 is titled Division, Classification, and Tasks. I was the shortest recruit in my company then. There were 80 male recruits in Company 388, and we all came from various parts of the United States, Guam, and the Philippines. We were all of different races and various religions and had different reasons for joining the armed services and navy. Some were from the ghetto slum of America, and some were from affluent neighborhoods like Beverly Hills and such. Now, our ages were quite different as well. There were some recruits who were in their late teens, and some in their mid-30s, and even some didn't even speak English. I was ordered to translate because I had the same skin color and feature as some of the minorities there. But it turned out that those guys were from Guam and the Philippines, and I didn't speak a word of their language or dialect. I was only able to speak Khmer, Cambodian, and English then. Luckily for those guys, Shinshin spoke Tagalog of sort. Shinshin was quite amazing then. He knew a little and a lot of everything. Somehow, it's like he had been around the block a few times or so. Those who were designated as stickmen had to practice various flag drills, flag salutes, and flag marches for graduation and various ceremonies throughout the 9 weeks we were there at boot camp. While at basic training, we weren't allowed to talk to the opposite sex, let alone look at them. Now sometime, while in line and such, I would sneak a peek or steal a peek or two toward the female direction just to help me get through the day without having to explode in the shower or in bed. We all got used to our daily routine and regimen from waking up to going to bed. During our shower sessions, all male in the same company shared the same shower stalls. We did a car wash cycle shower. All the 10 shower heads were turned on at the same time to a nice temperature, and then we showered in a car wash fashion. We all lined up and bundled up, nuts to butts, they would say. First, we all get wet, then we lather up. Moving on to the next stall, we soap up. Next stall, then we rinse and shampooed, and then we clean off the soap and shampoo as we proceed through the stall individually, like being on a conveyor belt. Once out of the shower room, we would dry ourselves off in the sink area. We would brush and shave ourselves for our daily morning facial and clothing inspections. While we moved from showerhead to showerhead in a car wash-like fashion concession, everyone had their eyes fixated on a spot on the wall or ceiling. That way no one would think that we were some kind of queer of sort. We were real careful not to drop our soaps, because we didn't want any accidental contact between nuts and butts. So most of us own a bar of soap or two on a rope, and we wore the bar of soap around our necks as we proceed through the water and shower stalls. I guess the female recruit had it better than the males did when it comes to showering themselves and washing off. There weren't as many female in each company as the male were, and it seemed they had more time to get ready for muster and such during the morning routine, unless they got up earlier than we did. I'm sure they probably had their own shower head, and they could take their sweet time lathering up and scrubbing their nice firm flesh and bosom and caressing themselves in those tickling, sensitive spots and such. But they sort of had to do the same things as we did after all. We were all recruits. I'm sure they too had to shave themselves on both of their faces, underarms, and pubic area. Shinshin knew more about the female recruit doings and outings than we did. He was there when they did their things in their barracks since he brought and exchanged mails and packages with them on a daily basis. I'm sure he had a swell time then mingling with the opposite sex during his mail run. Every morning during basic, it's the same routine. Reveille. Everyone gets up at the same time, takes turn taking a dump or pump, which is shitting and peeing. Then we brush our teeth, shave. Most of the time we would dry shave to have enough time before we all had to muster up, and then we would get dressed and get ready for GQ, general quarters, where we had to stand beside our racks at attention and ready for inspection by our RDCs. We then get in formations of 4 equal lines where the stickmen will lead the line, being their line leaders. After the formation was formed, we would march to chow and to our scheduled classes, to our appointments, and to any destinations that we were had to go on a daily basis. All day long we would march from here to there, always doing something until it was late in the long day. From dusk till dawn we were on our feet and always on the move. Then we would get changed and go running and exercise, putting much strain on our backs and legs and pushing ourselves physically and mentally for the rest of the day. It was like this for about the first 8 weeks or so of our basic training. We had to take sexual harassment classes, rules and regulation, military laws and regulation, Navy and military history, flag sign, flag signals and meanings, what to do in a combat zone, how and whom to salute, and who and what to report in time of troubles, and how to take report, how to make report. We learn about transmitted diseases and what not to do and how to protect ourselves from sexual and transmitted diseases and biological, chemical, and warfare as well. We would have various tests and exams regarding these subjects that we took and were taught on, and everyone had to pass all the required classes to graduate from and get through basic training. Besides the academic attribute, we also had to qualify at least as a third-class swimmer. Since you're in the Navy, you have to be able to swim and save yourself. A recruit had to be able to float in the water on his or her back, for at least 15 minutes and swim a lap around the pool without being helped. The swim instructor taught us how to use our clothing as floating devices as well. For example, our dungarees were used to help us stay afloat by tying each end of the trouser leg into a knot and then by putting air into the trouser leg and resting our midsection over the trouser. As we had each trouser tucked under our armpit, we would then float. We also used our long sleeve blouse to stay afloat by blowing air into our blouse through the collar, where all of the blouse buttons were closed and tucked into our skivvies and trouser. As we learned how to turn our bell bottom into life-saving vests and how to use our Dixie cup as a support when floating. And most important, for all of us, we learned how to jump into the water off of high places, aircraft carriers, and big ships without snapping our necks when we go in the water. More on our mental state and strain and physical ability. We also went through the gas chamber where we were subjected to mustard gas that made our eyes water and caused us to heavily choke, causing some of us to puke up our lunches and lungs. The only way for us to get out of the gas chamber sooner was that while we were suffocating, we had to state our correct name, serial number, and the right amendment of military personnel who were on duty and watch. Most of us got fucked up from the mustard gas, puking up what we had for breakfast and what was ever in our stomachs. And of course, we were instructed not to rub our eyes when we got out of the gas chamber, because rubbing the eye would make the burning worse, and for a few unfortunate who did, their eyes swelled up and the burning lasted longer. I did well enough in the gas chamber and was allowed to exit the area on my first try and wasn't that much affected by the gas. I only shed a few tears. Now Shinshin was much different. He hung around the gas chamber much longer than the rest of us, pissing off the instructor in the process. He seemed to get a kick out of what he was doing in the gas chamber. The mustard gas seemed to have no effect on him one bit. The only obstacle that I really had to conquer at boot camp was the swimming test and trial. At that time, I wasn't a good swimmer at all, as I am now. I was able to float and do a lap or two, but I wasn't good enough to float on my back for 15 minutes straight without having to turn over. So several times I had to attend extra practices, and like all things I want to accomplish, I managed to overcome this obstacle as well. During our swim trial, to pass as a third-class swimmer and to be able to graduate from boot camp, a recruit must be able to jump from a 20-foot high platform into a pool of water and then resurface to the top without any help, then float for 15 minutes straight on his or her back, and then be able to swim around one full lap around the Olympic-sized pool without having to be assisted by anyone. Those who failed the swim exam were required to attend extra remedial courses so that they could improve their swimming ability and pass later on. Now, during one of our remedial sessions, a recruit was too scared to jump from the 20-foot platform and refused to jump. As a result of her refusal, the swim instructor bluntly pushed her off the high podium and she fell into the awaiting pool, screaming from the top of her lung. She also had trouble resurfacing to the top, and an instructor had to leap into the pool to bring her back up to the surface. Once up from her sinking toward the bottom, she puked up gulps of pool chlorinated water from her lung and mouth. The goal of the swim test was to teach us how to survive during a ship capsizing and to be able to survive in large body of water when we were lost at sea and on our own, where the sort of emergency was a possibility whenever you're out on a body of water. As the weeks went by, boot camp seemed to have gotten easier, perhaps and because we just got used to the routine. As a recruit at basic training, the more weeks we were there, the more seniority status we earned. And as a more developed recruit, we were required to teach our fellow new recruit the drills and routine of stickmen and other tasks that were required of us. We broke up into groups, smaller groups of job designators and taught new recruit of what we know and what we've learned then. Luckily for Shinshin, he had the opportunity to teach several female recruits of his duty as a postal officer. He showed them around the base where to pick up the mail and packages and how to go about distributing them. I'm quite sure that Shinshin got some ass in the process. He was just that attractive to both males and females then. I so envy Shinshin then for his way with people. There were moments at boot camp where we were all allowed to be ourselves. Just a brief moment. One time there was a basketball shootout tournament sponsored by AT&T, and I was allowed to participate and compete in. I did well enough to receive a $20 gift card, calling card. Shinshin didn't bother participating in any event. His mind was set on something else then, and I wasn't sure what. We gave him his space and went on with our lives, making sure not to bother him. I felt free for that brief moment, basking in my own world and not having to worry about taking orders for a mere second, but going back to reality quickly followed after we were all lined up and marched back to barracks and went about our daily routine once again as usual. That's how the military was then. You didn't really get your own privacy. Everyone was up in your ass for all sorts of reasons. No one had time to be alone unless you were hiding out in some ditch somewhere during a war or training. Boot camp. You had no privacy at boot camp. You were always being watched. During our first 7 weeks at basic, we wore the green belt and harness as part of our daily gear with our military dungarees and work blouse. We all called it the booger belt because it's the same color as a nose knot. And after our 7 week and our company were successful in our exams and inspection, our company were given the white belts, which was called the powder belts. Much gayer than the first, of course. But it was something to be proud of. It means that we were near the end of our basic. And that's what we're all striving for then. To get through the rigorous training, the hell of basic training, and to graduate and go on to our next destination of becoming a true sailor. Thank you for listening. This is the end of chapter 41. Be on the lookout for chapter 42, titled Service Week. This is Do, Ra, me, and I'll see you later. Thank you.